So a conditional is anytime we want a program to be able to make some sort of decision or choice, right? If we want it to be able to decide to print one thing or another, if we want it to be able to complete a function or not, if you're programming a robot, do you want it to go forward or backward, right? So anytime we want a program to make a decision or take two different paths, we need a conditional statement, and that's just what they're called. In a lot of languages, these are called if statements or if then statements or if else statements. All of those are conditionals, okay? So I'm gonna go do an example. So CodeHS has this cool feature called the sandbox, which lets you just kind of try stuff out. So I'm gonna go open the sandbox and I'm gonna make a new program and I will call it conditionals testing. Sure, that's good. And hit create program. So these are all the languages you can sandbox in or practice in, but we're learning Python, specifically Python 3, so the very top one on that Python list. So it probably would not be super helpful to go do practice in another language. I'm going to recommend sticking with Python 3. So I'm just going to hit create program. And there we go. It's going to look a lot like interacting with CodeHS as usual. Whatever I kind of put in my program over here, I can run and the results will show up over here, okay? The only real difference, and you could certainly do practice stuff just in a exercise assignment in your regular, but this gives you the freedom to kind of try something out and save it for the future without messing up like the order of your activities or forgetting where you were practicing. So we are going to look at a couple of things that I want you to know about Python. I'm going to get rid of what we've got so far. The first is that all programs should have a header and comments. So what is a header? A header is a section at the top of your program that contains useful information, but is not part of the program that is about to run. So it can contain useful things like your name, the date that you were working on something, and what a program does. Here's an example of okay. The reason that I have these quotation marks above and below is this is how you do a block comment in Python, which I believe was in one of the lessons. So that means that anything in between these sets of quotations is not actually part of the program. It will not result in any thing happening. It will just exist, right? So if I were to run this now, the only thing that will actually print out over here is where it says, here is the program. Okay, so this is where the program really actually started. If I mess up these quotation thingies, I forget to put them up there, and I try and run this program, I'm just going to get errors because it does not work. KDG is not a recognizable Python statement, and so it does not know what to do with this. Similarly, if I forget the bottom, as far as it can tell, there is no program. This is the beginning of a comment and nothing else. Right? So we are containing our header in those quotation marks so that we can kind of save that section for, it's just like putting your name at the top of your paper, right? Same idea. And then we're going to continue with our program. So I bring this up because headers are really important. Every program you turn into me must have a header. And comments, which is what I'm going to show you here in just a second, must have a header. It's not a properly formatted program without one. Okay. When you're practicing in the sandbox or doing your exercises, you always have to take the time to put a header on those. No, and neither do I, right? If I'm doing practice exercises, but when you go to submit a program or save it for the future or whatever, a header is really important. So I want you to know that they exist and that they should be there. I will say it many, many more times as we get closer to actually turning in a program, okay? Name, date, what it does. That's a pretty good place to start. Okay? Okay. And we are going to try out a conditional statement. So what does a conditional statement look like? It looks like this. If thing I want to check, then a semicolon, and then we indent under the word if, and this is thing that happens if it's true. Okay, and then perhaps you want a backup action like an else, and that would be thing that happens if it's false. Okay, so none of these words, like I couldn't run this program right now, it would just give me an error. This is not a recognizable thing, right? But I can put any kind of statement in here that I'm going to check for true or false. So I could check if one number was larger than another. I could check if two words were the same. I could check if a word was in a list. I could check if a number was positive, right? So there's a lot of things that I could check for, but I'm going to check for something. That's what a conditional statement does. So I'm going to make some more nonsensical non-code example here. So if it is raining outside, then what do I want to do? I want to click an umbrella. You know, that makes me not a very good Oregonian, but you know, it's a good example. Okay, so if it's true that it is raining outside, then I will take an umbrella. If it is not true that it is raining outside, then I will not take an umbrella. That seems really boring. What else would I do? I will wear sunscreen. There we go. Excellent. So if it's raining outside, I will take an umbrella. Otherwise, I will wear sunscreen, because if it's not raining, that means it's probably sunny, and so I should wear some sunscreen. Okay. We could think of some other examples, like if the light is green, like when I'm driving my car, I will go. That means go. Great. If it's not green, I will stop. Slow. Okay. So whatever goes in this top line is the thing I'm checking for whether it's true or false. Right here goes the thing I want to happen if it's true. And down here goes the thing I want to happen if it's false. Okay. So in Python, there is, so in all programming languages, there's something called syntax, which just means like the grammar of the language, the punctuation of the language. the symbols so that the language knows what you're trying to do. In Python, white space like this is part of that syntax. So if I were to do this, my program would have no idea what I was trying to do. I would get some sort of error, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. But indenting like this is really important in Python, okay? Really important. All right. So we're going to try out some conditional statements like 1 is greater than 0. If 1 is greater than 0, then I will print 1 is bigger. Oh, I got to put that in quotes. Otherwise, I will print 1 is smaller. Okay, so I'm going to hit run here in just a second. It is going to check if 1 is greater than 0. Is 1 greater than 0? Yes, okay, I got a thumbs up. Thank you. All right, 1 is greater than 0. So we would expect that this is what we'll print out, right? Let's check. 1 is bigger. There we go. We've successfully written a program. It's not a very exciting or complicated program, but there it is. So because this is true, it printed this result, okay? So I'm going to add some comments now, because I said that was important also. A comment in Python starts with the hashtag symbol or the pound symbol or whatever name you want to call the little symbol thingy that is over the number 3 on your keyboard. That's the one. So when I put that at the beginning of the line, it means that anything that follows it on that line, just that line, is not part of the program and will instead just be for the benefit of people reading my code, not part of the program to be run. So if statement will check for true or false, okay? Inside my if statement right here, what to do if true, what to do if false. Okay. All right. So whatever I put on this line is what I'm checking for true or false. Whatever I put down here inside is what to do if this turned out to be true. Whatever I put down here is what to do if it turns out to be false. So how about 1 is greater than 50? Is 1 greater than 50? Oh, I got kind of a muttered no. Thank you. Okay. No, 1 is not greater than 50. So what is going to happen? Yeah, so right here, we checked this statement and it was not true. So we skipped over this section and went down to here and printed 1 is smaller. Okay. So all of conditionals kind of boil down to this idea. This is how an if statement is structured. Thing that I'm checking, what to do if it's true, else, what to do if it's false. Okay. I'm going to add a few more in here. We learned about variables a little bit already. So I'm going to introduce a variable. And what's my variable going to be? Number to check. and it's going to be for now equal to 1. So now I could put in here number to check. So now I've assigned number to check to something, or I could ask my user to provide one. And now in my if statement, I'm going to use that variable and check and see if it's greater than 50. Okay, and then, so this part should be exactly the same. It is not greater than 50. So I printed out one is smaller. I'm going to change this to number, because now I could make it any number. I could do this for 100. So now if I run it, the number is bigger. So the number that I'm checking is 100. Is 100 greater than 50? Yes, that is true. And so I print out this number is bigger. Okay. I can also add other options. This conditional that we've been looking at so far only has one thing it's checking, and it's checking for true or false and nothing else. But we could add some other options, like so now I'm going to say here, number is bigger than 50. Number is less than 50. If a number is not bigger than 50 and it's not smaller than 50, what's going to be true?
No.
Is 50.
Yes,
Number
thank
is
you,
50.
Chet. If it's not bigger than 50 and it's not smaller than 50, then it's 50. Okay, so this statement now will check for a couple of things, right? So we're going to try it out with the number 100 first. It will come in here and say, hey, is the number bigger than 50? And in fact, it is. Okay, now let's try it out with 3. So this is going to come into the conditional statement and check in order. Is it bigger than 50? And it's not. So it will go down to the next line. Is it less than 50? And it will say, oh, actually, this is true. So number is less than 50.
Today less than 50.
But if I put in 50,
50.
I'm going to put 50 in right here. Is it greater than 50? No. Is it less than 50? No. So the only option left is it must be 50, right? I'm going to hit run, and we get number is 50.
Number is 50.
So this is just an example of how you can check multiple things in a conditional statement or an if statement. The important thing to remember is that it will go through the list in order, right? So only if the first thing is not true will it even check the second thing. If both of those things are not true, it will check the third thing. When it runs out of things to check, it will do whatever is in the else statement. Okay? All right. How are we feeling about conditionals? Feeling okay?
Maybe too much to understand me, because I'm still stuck on Python.
It's okay if Python is being a struggle, right? it is okay to be working through it. You do not have a Python assignment due yet. We would like to be finishing up the conditionals section at the end of this week. That would be a good place to be. Okay. You can put as many of these things in a list as you needed to. I don't actually think that there's much of an upper limit, just how many you want to string together. But it is important to remember that order piece that will go through each. You can also have if statements within if statements. Okay, so how about if I check that it's bigger than 50, I'll say yes, it's bigger than 50. Now I also want to check if it's bigger than 500. And so it's going to indent again under my new if statement.
Why?
Okay, so now if I were to, so I'm going to pick something bigger than 50. So it passes the number 100 in, and it says, is 100 greater than 50? Yes, it is. So I'm going to print out number is bigger than 50. Is it bigger than 500? No, it's not. So I'm just not going to do this, and I'm done.
No.
If I pick something that is bigger than 5, so I'm going to do like a really big number.
Than 1 million.
Yeah, I think that might even be more than, that's like 100 million. Very big number.
100 million.
100 million, yep. So if I run the code, it starts here and says, is it bigger than 50? Yes, it is.
Yes, 8,000 more bigger than 50 and 500.
500. It is also bigger than 500. So I will also print out number is bigger than 500. So if statements, conditionals are one of the most powerful things you can do in a programming language, right? They are how decisions are made. An awful lot of what we do after conditionals is just fancier, faster conditionals. Most programs, pretty much all programs, really, when you work your way down, are made up of statements, like print this number, that's a statement telling a program to do something in particular, conditionals, which you're learning right now, and loops, which we will learn very soon. So really those three things, all programs, every program you've ever used, your entire operating system, whatever your favorite app on your phone is, they all come down to those three things: statements, conditionals, and loops. Okay, this is kind of a important building block of how programming works.